Consequences. That's the nothing personal word of the day. It is Wednesday, July 9th, 2025, and we're talking about the consequences of NIL. You may have heard more than you ever wanted to hear about unintended consequences, but we just got hit by a slap shot, and I'm not even in Canada. I'm talking about Canada Junior Leagues, Canada Junior Hockey. We're talking about where the best players in hockey come from. I'm just going to say Canada. Then I'm going to talk about young Canadian players, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds who are playing what you would think would be called junior leagues, and what I would tell you are pretty much semi-professional minor leagues in that they've got 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are going from Canada Junior Leagues to the NHL. But the story came out yesterday about the greatest hockey prospect. Of course, we fall victim to this every time. This guy's the greatest. This guy's the next great one. But Gavin McKenna, you could have an argument today that he could be better than Connor McDavid. No one ever says better than Gretzky. People can talk about Sidney Crosby from time to time, but you don't say anything about Gretzky. But Gavin McKenna is a surefire number one pick in next year's NHL draft. Already known. It's one of those LeBron things or Bryce Harper things where you're looking Steven Strasburg and you say, oh, this is a 1-1. Cooper Flagg, the most recent example in the NBA. Hey, before he even steps foot at Cameron Indoor Stadium, he's the number one pick in the NBA draft. But the reason why this story merits your attention is that Gavin McKenna is taking advantage of a new rule that was implemented as of, that's a tense issue, 4869. Gavin McKenna is taking advantage of a new rule that will be implemented on August 1st, 2025, when he will have the right to leave junior hockey in Canada and go and switch and play U.S. college hockey. And you'd say, why is that even a new rule? What changed here? What did it used to be? Well, the NCAA, we're talking about college in the U.S., they had to vote to lift a previous restriction that barred these Canadian Hockey League players due to amateur rules and did not allow, if you played in these junior leagues in Canada, you couldn't play in college. But then 14 and 50-year-olds started looking down. And I don't mean looking down on anyone. I mean literally looking down from Canada and said, hold on. We barely get paid anything here in the Canada Junior Leagues. Yes, we get to go to Tim Horton. That's fun. But all these guys are going to college. They're playing hockey. They're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. I want a piece of that. So they go to the Canada Junior Leagues and they say, I'm not sure I want to play in this league anymore. So then the NCAA says, here's an idea that we can get the best players to either not play junior leagues at all or to leave the junior leagues and not go straight to the NHL. We're going to say you can go from the junior leagues to NCAA on your way to the NHL. So Gavin McKenna is picking up his sticks, packing his bag, and going to Penn State University. The reason why he's going to Penn State University is that they are offering him in the neighborhood, it is reported, of $700,000. That's US dollars. Well, that doesn't seem like a lot if Cooper Flagg made $25 million, except I'll tell you, there's not been a college hockey NIL deal for $700,000. That's how good Gavin McKenna is, and that's how much money Penn State has, because guess what the name of their ice arena is? Just take a wild one. How about the Pegula Ice Arena? Yeah, that's the same Kim and Terry Pegula. You've heard of them. They donated $88 million to build that arena, which basically made them the GM of Penn State hockey, which enabled them to throw money around, give NIL money so that Penn State can have a great hockey program. And so they call up a good player in the junior leagues in Canada and say, do you like making $50 every 2 weeks? Do you like making $150? Or do you want to come make 700 grand? So what does it mean? Why does this matter? Why am I passionate about this issue? When we told you that all college sports was post NIL was another professional league with full free agency. And you're going to hear more later in the show about free agency in the NBA and people complaining and what are the solutions. The MLB, Rob Manfred complaining about free agency. It's like a death march because no one signs. College, total free agency. 1 year NIL deals. Who's going to give me the most? But then you have to go down another level. We said in the US, and this is the only reference I made because I wasn't properly thinking it through. The unintended consequence of NIL, the ripple, when you put the pebble in the river, I said, we're going to make high schools like colleges. Right now, you don't get paid in high school. It's coming. And you will have high school transfers happening way more. The portal will be so full of people going from Power Memorial to Horace Mann because, oh, look, we can pay 200 grand to have someone who normally wouldn't be able to sit through AP history. So high school becomes what college used to be. College becomes what the pros used to be. But I didn't look north of the border to an entire infrastructure that had been producing hockey players and great hockey players since the beginning of time, practically. The best players are Canadian. Therefore, it makes perfect sense that the colleges wanted to get these best players for just a year because the NHL has a rule that, do you know, when you draft someone in the NHL, you've got that player for 2 years, not one. 2 years he can go unsigned and he's still your property. MLB doesn't have that. Do you know that if you draft a player from a college team, he's yours for 4 years? 4 years. It's supposed to be that when you draft a player, you've got a signing period, and if you don't sign the player before that period's done, you lose that player. You can sign that player to a minor league deal, which most MLB players are. You can sign that player to a G League deal, a split deal, a brawny deal. There are myriad ways, but you've got a deadline after which you lose the rights to the player. And colleges have never fed the NHL the way they feed basketball. Out of the 22 top picks in the 2025 NHL Draft, you want to know how many U.S. college players there were? 1. Colleges look around and say, we can change this. We can raise money if we can bring in the best young players. Let's do it. Mr. Pagula, what do you think? So why do I tell you that here's what's coming? Complete change to a system that, in my opinion, had been working perfectly. You've got Canadian players doing what they do, getting good in the Canadian junior leagues, and then coming to the pros. With the money now in college, the Canadian leagues have to make a change that they do not want to make because they can't afford to make it, which is going to lead to contraction amongst all the Canadian junior leagues because they're going to have to start paying their players more than those tiny stipends they currently do. It is impossible to believe that the Canadian junior leagues will not allow NIL payments going forward. As a matter of fact, Coca, an official wait to see on this issue, and you can book it at davidsamsonpodcast.com, is that the Canada Junior Leagues will start allowing NIL payments within 12 months from the August 1st, 2025 rule change, which is coming up in just a few weeks. So by August 1st of 2026, Canada Junior Leagues will be allowing NIL payments or their equivalent. Wait to see. Agents have a job. Many of you have mistakenly thought that I have it out for Scott Boras, as though it's personal. And while it is personal what happened with Jose Fernandez and Scott Boras's inability to properly represent Jose or his family, and while I've seen Scott Boras not properly represent myriad players who just get left behind and not allowed or given the chance to make the money they could have made and then get swept away, those are just facts. That's not personal. I'm just giving you exactly how Boras is. But when I tell you that there are some agents whose job, they feel it in their core, their job is to take care of their players from the moment they start being represented to the moment they stop earning a dollar in any capacity. There are agents who keep players into their 30s, 40s, 50s, post-career, with endorsements, with appearances, with friendship, with advice. There are relationships that are supposed to be built because it is incumbent upon an agent to understand they are a fiduciary responsibility with a player, a father figure, a mentor. When you've got young players from the Dominican or from Venezuela in baseball, there is no greater fertile ground than the behavior, the unexplainable, disgraceful behavior that takes place between agents and their international players. You know the story of Busconis in the Dominican Republic, whose sole job is to sign up young boys and to promise protection, promise food, a roof, and all they have to do is pay me everything when you get to the big leagues. And if you don't ever make it to the big leagues because you don't get drafted, you don't make it, you stink, the Busconi leaves you on the street. There are certified agents with the MLBPA. Not everyone can be an agent. You have to be certified to be an agent in Major League Baseball. It's an arduous process. And once you become an agent, you are then able to represent players. There are many phenomenal agents who do the right thing by their international players, who they get post-Busconi. There are many agents who do the right thing by their Major League Baseball players. The story of Yasser Mendez, who is an agent being investigated by the MLBPA right now. They're investigating one of their own because Yasser Mendez, who represents players, let's just take Johan Rojas, the outfielder for the Phillies, a fourth outfielder, call him whatever you want. Say he's got 138 bats, part-time player on a team that's in first place. I don't care. He's a major league player. That means that Yasser Mendez has a responsibility to do the right thing, and it's a legal one. Well, wouldn't you know it that Yasser Mendez is being accused of certain financial misconduct. What is the misconduct? Well, The Athletic had a report, and the misconduct is quite normal. The agent went to the player and said, I've got the idea for you. You have no idea how good it is. There's an academy being built in Venezuela. And if you're smart, you'll invest in it. You'll give something back to your country, to the country that's produced Miguel Cabrera. All you got to do is go to the bank and borrow about $875,000, something like that. Tell them you're going to earn money in the big leagues. Go to a bank and say, can I just have a little advance? Just give me like $500. It's not like baseball advance, that place that takes all your future earnings that Tatis is suing. Go to the previous Nothing Personal episode for an explanation of what that business is, which is, hey, we'll give you money. If you become a pro, you then give us 10% of whatever you make. But in the meantime, if you don't, which you probably won't, you can keep that money. Totally different. When you go to a bank and say, I'd like to borrow money against future income, and then the future income doesn't come, you got to pay the money back. So the agent said, here's an idea, go borrow the money, then I want you to invest it with me and my academy, and we're going to be rich. We're going to build the greatest academy in the history of the world, and we'll have players flowing in and out who are going to pay. Guess what happened to the money? Just fashion a guess for me. Yes, it's true. He would have been smarter to roll up the money and use it as toilet paper. Johan Rojas did not have a chance to get a return on that investment because the whole thing was obviously and not surprisingly total scam related. So then you had the players say, I'm sorry, what's going on here? I have an agent who totally took advantage and lied to me. And what did I know? I didn't know better. So I gave him like 475 grand. And by the way, this agent didn't take care of me in any way. He was supposed to pay my taxes. He never did. He was supposed to. There's a whole grievance process that happens where the player files a grievance against his own agent. And then MLBPA investigates said agent. And the result is a decertification of that agent. You can bet your sweet bippy that Yasser Mendez will be decertified. But what about the trail of nightmare in the wake of people who take advantage like this? Now, this is not me being soft and me telling you, oh, David, you're a big business guy. You take advantage of people all the time. Yeah, you're damn right I do. The people I take advantage of are in a position where they've got all the facts, but they misunderstand them, or they make a bet that I know they're going to lose. So if I've got information that makes me believe I'm going to get the right side of a business deal, there is full disclosure, full representations and warranties, full understanding of what a deal is, and I win the deal, that's just winning a deal. And the art of winning a deal is way greater than the art of making a deal, because making a deal, that's fun. Winning the deal, it's even better. And winning the deal to the point where the people you've worked with will continue to work with you because they don't feel as though they got slaughtered, taken advantage of, misrepresented, or lied to, that's the park I play in and love playing in, because you get repeat business. Why wouldn't you want repeat business when it's business that you know you are going to win? The scary part about this is that these international players, they have no protection. They really don't. Because they have a dollar and a dream. They have a hole in their shoes, a hole in their glove, and the sweetest ability to play shortstop you've ever seen. They've got a stroke that would just make your eyes water, and executives look and say, wow, what you could be. You will make me look so smart. You will get me an extension. You will get me a ring. And the minute that a player cannot do that for an executive or for an agent, it is not entirely uncommon that that player's life takes a turn. But if you're good enough to be a big leaguer the way Johan Rojas is, and you have been taken advantage in that way, you're not going to get away with it. You get away with it when the players disappear. But when they're good, think back, Coca. What's the name of the Cuban player who escaped from Cuba and then realized that he defected and then had to pay a Busconi and a transfer, a mule? Oh, heavenly heavens. Yasiel Puig. Coca, you're the best. Did you Google that? Or ChatGPT, or did you have that in your brain to feed me, which 1/4 of a second earlier I would have just been smooth? Hey, do you remember Yasiel Puig and the issues he had? It's fantastic. I love getting DMs from all of you. We do a show live. It's called Nothing Personal with David Samson. If this is your first time listening, this is the show. We have a rundown. We have no prompters. There's 3 of us putting it together for you each day, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. And yes, we're unedited. This is live on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. We actually read your DMs. We listen to your voicemails. You'll hear this in the next hour when we do hour 2. And each day we have stories that would make you want to subscribe and rate and tell your friends about Nothing Personal. And we appreciate you. I'm on Twitter at David P. Samson. Feel free to DM me. My DMs are open. I try to respond to as many as possible, but I can't get to all of them. We have a website called davidsamsonpodcast.com. Thank you. You can email me. You can buy some fun, great merch with our new great logo. One of you DM'd me something yesterday, and I wanted to bring it on the show because it just made me smile, and it brought back memories. Bruce Mayer is working for MLBPA. He works with Tony Clark. You may recall the name. We've spoken a lot about it. There was a coup to get rid of Tony Clark and Bruce Meyer. It didn't work. They're still there. They're going to be negotiating in theory with Dan Halem and Rob Manfred as MLB tries to get a new collective bargaining agreement. And one of you said, hey, is it true? Because Meyer went on Foul Territory. Great show if you don't listen to it. Not Metal Arc, but still a great show. I'm happy to admit it. And said, I wasn't ever able to talk to executives or owners because when owners would see me, they would run the other way. In fact, owners would tell me, we're not allowed to talk to you. And what he's referring to is an absolute truism. As presidents and owners, we were told, do not speak to members of the MLBPA when it comes to collective bargaining issues. Under no circumstance can you speak to the president, Tony Clark, or to any of the top people. The only time we'd ever have direct conversations with them is during arbitration when they'd be in the room and we'd be arguing and we'd have some small talk. But when it came to actual CBA issues, like salary cap or minimum salaries or pension issues or game rule change issues, whatever the big things are in a CBA, if it was found out that we, as president of a team, were back channeling and speaking to members of the union, we would get torched. So what did that lead to? And this is what Bruce Meyer did not say on the show. And what he could have said is there are still owners and presidents who ignore those rules and are feeding the union information. And lest you think that that's rare, it's not. And lest you think it doesn't go the other way, you're wrong. It does. There are members of the Union Executive Council, there are members of the top union negotiators who would often give information to certain owners or certain presidents or certain people in the commissioner's office. This is a very common occurrence. You would call it traitors. Season 40. No, it's not that. You would call it people who are trying to subvert the process. No, it's not that at all, actually. When you've got back channel crosstalk that you are properly controlling, it's an incredibly effective way to negotiate a CBA. When you've got a rogue communicator who is not being controlled, that person's got to be put down, shut down, and eliminated. It's like in an organization when you have leaks to the media that you are controlling and they are purposeful, but then you have someone else in your front office who's leaking stuff that you don't want leaked, and you find out who that is and then fire that person, not because they're leaking the wrong stuff that you don't want leaked. When you're negotiating a CBA, whether it's the WNBA, which, by the way, a lot of talk about the WNBA CBA, we've covered it on this show. There is back channeling, there's social media contact, there's all sorts of messaging that happens normal. When the hockey deal just got done between the NHL and the NHLPA, increasing the season to 84 games, that's a new deal that was announced and formalized. Of course, there is communication about, hey, what will you think about the 84 games if it's mentioned at the table? What do you got? Hey, what is your view if we do ABS or if we want to have more games in Europe or Asia? When you control the back channel leaking, it gives you the ability to actually have better negotiations because you're getting more information. Because, of course, these negotiations are like all negotiations. You've got to have information about what the other side wants or needs in order to get what you want or need. Keep those DMs coming. I love that question. I love talking about CBAs or just answering whether or not things are true or not true. Because as you hear every day on this show, on Le Batard once a week, I'm going to tell you the truth. Christian Horner got sacked yesterday. Do you remember him? Do you only know him as the husband of the Spice Girl? I think it's Ginger Spice. Or do you know him as the star of Drive to Survive? Or do you know him as the guy who got accused of some serious bad behavior and totally got away with it when Red Bull was kicking a double hockey sticks and Max Verstappen was winning every race? He was leading the grid. Red Bull was untouchable. Now, of course, Red Bull's very touchable. McLaren is better than Red Bull. And Christian Horner, all of a sudden, you don't quite tolerate the behavior that you tolerated before when you're not doing as well. Could that be the reason Christian Horner got fired? Could it be the fact that Red Bull is not winning the way they did before because McLaren keeps crushing them? So maybe it was performance related. Could it be that fact? Could it be the fact that Max Verstappen is rumored to be leaving Red Bull and flirting with Mercedes? When you're a free agent, you want to flirt. That's the whole purpose of it. Sometimes you like flirting before you're a free agent. Hell, if you've got 3 years left on your contract or 2.5 years on your contract, you still love flirting. Hold on, I'm getting a call from Dave. I'll be right back to you. There's nothing wrong with flirting. Max flirting. But maybe Red Bull decided we're going to have to choose because this marriage is coming to an end. And are we choosing Max or are we choosing Christian? Do we think that ESPN or Liberty got involved in this? ESPN is the U.S. rights holder for F1. Liberty's the owner of F1. Liberty's trying to do a TV deal to renew a TV rights deal with ESPN or someone else. And Liberty thought that they were going to get a double or a triple and then had to caution analysts that, hey, it may be a single. It may be down. Maybe it'll be the same. That's called adjusting your outlook. Why is F1 adjusting its outlook? Because the Drive to Survive bump that happened with the Netflix series, which used to be a mountain the size of Everest, has basically become the hill the size of the garbage dump in Weston where you try to do hill training for the Boston Marathon, meaning it's a tiny little bump in the ground. Therefore, when you're not getting the benefit, only the aggravation, it gives you a pathway to make a change that either you want to make or that should have been made. And getting rid of Christian Horner, notwithstanding the superstardom that came in season 1 of Drive to Survive, which has certainly not maintained, though it's still successful, but not like it was. The protected status that he might have felt washed away like a cool wind on a late summer night when you've got a blanket and a bunch of sand in your eye and you're hoping for fireworks. Jack and I disagree. Not like, we just disagree. We just disagree about Christian Horner. I don't think he's getting another job in F1. And he thinks, of course, Christian Horner will be swept up, maybe with one of the new teams. Not doing a wait to see, Jack, but we'll find out. Time for the review, Coca. Do you love that new music? If you're not watching on YouTube live, Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel, you're just listening, you may only hear the music, the dun, dun, dun. But if you're watching, you get this great animated wipe because it's time for the review. No matter how busy I am, no matter how nice the weather is, or how badly my hamstring is strained from pickleball and running, none of that matters. What matters is I'm still going to watch a movie. I told you the other night was my first night back from being away, and I did not sleep a wink. And I told you I'd review Department Q, and here we go. Department Q is a 9-part show, 9 episodes. You're committing under an hour per episode, though 1 or 2 of them are over an hour, but you got a couple 43 minutes in there, maybe a 55-minute in there. I want you to just assume you're committing 9 hours. Then I want you to think about whether you loved our review of Slow Horses. Slow Horses, the great show with the Academy Award-winning Gary Oldman. Slow Horses must have succeeded so well that people at Department Q said, here's an idea for a show. Let's take a guy who went through and was the victim of a crime as a police detective. Then let's make him grumpy like Nick Nolte from 48 Hours. Then we're going to have him literally because he makes the chief detective crazy like Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop. All right, Reggie, just get out of my face. So they send Matthew Good from Department Q to a newly created Department Q, which basically means don't be near me, find a cold case, and we'll sort of pretend it's like cold case, and then try to solve it. And what comes is 9 hours of amazing. Now, I did watch it in subtitles, though it is in English. I just don't want to miss any word with the accents. But this story about trying to solve a crime where the detective is the victim of the crime, then at the same time trying to solve a cold case and understanding the backstory of that cold case and whether or not it's actually cold, whether or not someone is alive or not alive. You get a little Silence of the Lambs in there. If you know, you know, and it's not about Chianti. It's another part of Silence of the Lambs. You get a little bit of claustrophobia. You get a little bit of, coca. I don't need a break, but I do need to. What is the name when you've got the Patty Hearst? You get a little bit of Patty Hearst syndrome in there. And it all comes together over 9 glorious hours where you don't need to move. Department Q is a show you will go back to 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 back and say, I got one to go. And you'll do it, as you should. Tomorrow is Thursday, which means we will be reviewing another of our top 100 movies. So we will be removing 8469. We will be reviewing tomorrow Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If you've never seen it, it's going to take you about 2:45, but I would suggest you have it watched by tomorrow. There is nothing better. I would say one of the top 10 parts of my job was sports radio and fans all telling me they could do my job better than I could do it. I always pictured being a doctor like an OBGYN and having like a father stand over and say, wait a minute, you're totally doing it wrong. Get out of the way. I can do it better. Give me those forceps. Or being a lawyer sitting in your office writing up a contract and having some person out your window, washing your window and saying, you're using whereas there? Don't be ridiculous. That's a there too. People telling you how to do your job. I have an idea. Do your own job. Draymond Green decided yesterday was a good day to tell you that he believes he's doing the wrong job. Not that he should be a podcaster, not that he should be a professional basketball player. He said, I could have been a union presidente. He actually said that, Draymond Green. He said he should have been the president of the NBA Players Association because his view is that the CBA that the NBA agreed to has had a crushing impact on free agency because teams put in something called a second apron. And what a second apron acted as was a hard cap. Whereas people in the NBA, when they were negotiating a salary cap, really thought, well, this is a salary cap and it is tied to revenue, but it's sort of soft. Like it's flaccid enough that we can hire 4 people to try to pump it up and figure out if we can get over the cap, around the cap, through the cap. We can build some exceptions, figure out some rules. But then the NBA, while the MLBPA was sleeping, instituted the second apron, and that should not have been the focus on the level of what the second apron is. Instead, the focus should have been, what are the punishments? A little hint for the Major League Baseball Players Association. When we're doing stuff as management and we're having you focus on numbers like where the luxury tax kicks in, pay close attention to what the punishments are. And if a punishment is ever, hey, you can't go to an owner's meeting, just know that's not a big punishment. If the punishment is that we can fine you up to $2,500 if you violate this rule, that's not a big deterrent. If the punishment is that you lose draft picks or that you pay tens of millions of dollars in tax per tens of millions of dollars that you pay to a player or even more, so that a player, instead of being worth 10 million, you pay the player 10 million, but you owe an extra 20 million in tax, which makes that player go from 10 million to a $30 million expenditure. Pay attention to that. But the second apron comes into being, and now players are despondent, saying the teams don't want to be a part of the second apron. Well, NSS, baby. Obviously. So what Draymond decided to do was to get on X, which is fine. No problem. And basically, he sends out posts where he's saying that not only did the NBA's current CBA put an end to free agency, but he then started sullying his own members. I sit here and watch. This is a quote from a tweet. I sit here and watch so many players overplay the market and not understand what they are up against with the new rules, which leads me to trying to understand the unstaggering percentage of guys that has no idea, who have no idea, of the business they are a part of. 2 words. He said the quiet out loud, didn't he? He said that there's a bunch of players who are voting on whether to approve a CBA who may not even understand the CBA, who may not read the documents that are given to them by the executive council or by the union president, who don't even read the summary pages called the summary of terms, because no one reads the full CBA. But everybody gets a summary of terms, whose summary of terms may not include a column of this is what could be the result of this. This is what we are concerned of with that. Draymond Green is 100% right in that there are players who are not paying attention at all. Where he's wrong is that he thinks by being the union president, he would fix all that. There already is a union president. His name is CJ McCollum, and he's getting crushed. People are blaming him. Can you explain that to me? When I lead you to water, do not blame me if you die of thirst. When I put you in a position to succeed and give you every opportunity and you fail, it's not my problem. It's not my fault. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to blame someone else for it happening. That's how you fire a manager. Or someone else. That's how you trade a player. The consequences of failure are going to be changed if it's a rational actor. CJ McCollum was elected in August of 2021, which was about 2 years before the current CBA. The fact is that CJ McCollum, with a bunch of the other players who were on the board, they do communicate with their fellow union members. They do put in writing to the agents what is happening in the CBA. They don't just count on the agents communicating to the players. They count on the team rep communicating to the players. The big disadvantage that a players union has is that the team reps are players on a team who often are voted to be the team rep because no one wants to do it. Because being the union rep for a team is a giant pain in the ass, and we want it to be that way as management. We want no real players of great intelligence or care to want to be union reps. But that doesn't mean that's how it should be. It doesn't mean that the players should acquiesce to that. It doesn't mean that the union reps shouldn't be well chosen. And if you can't find a representative who works and plays on your team, there should be a rule within the union that the union rep for a team can be somebody else whose job is to communicate with those players what's happening. Draymond Green is going to get more involved in CBA, in negotiations, because he wants to be and feels like his is the voice of reason. His is the voice of experience. He told us on Twitter yesterday, maybe I'll write a long piece or maybe I'll just do a podcast. What I love about it is that there's a way more effective way for Draymond Green to get what he wants. How about combining with the existing infrastructure and together educating your teammates? And if you don't like CJ McCollum personally or think he's doing a bad job professionally, then you can execute a coup to vote him out of office. It's quite normal that union members have the right to change union leadership. You don't have the right to complain about your leadership if you don't do something to change it. And yes, that does go for a few other things I'm talking about. You want to complain about the presidency or about climate change or about how bad things are? Do something about it. Vote. Of course, as a former team president, I can't help but thinking about Draymond Green walking into a room with a bunch of owners and saying, man, this second apron, you guys got us. This is the greatest CBA ever. And then the owners saying, yeah, I'm sorry. Do some of your members make like $70 million a year playing basketball? In half a season, a mediocre player could make more than some of the best players of recent generations made. Boy, you really took care of those past generations. You're really focused on future generations, aren't you? You're focused on now and the numbers that you're all getting now. Take a look at some of the contracts and then come back and tell me. And I'll tell you the same thing I would say about baseball. Juan Soto's 765 doesn't mean the rest of the union is going to get theirs. It just means the best of the best are going to get his. In the NBA, though, you're rewarding mediocrity. I'm just a bill. I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Dee-dun, dun, dun. You know what? It's so good. Coca, the big, beautiful bill passed the House and Senate. We went through the provisions. Then, representatives in various states, including Nevada, California, Texas, they're watching Nothing Personal, and they're saying, hold on, I wasn't aware of the gambling issue. I didn't realize that now, because of what's written in the bill that we just passed and that was just put into law, I didn't realize that they cut the amount of deductions for losses you can make, so therefore that you could actually lose money net by winning money gross in gambling. That can't be. Here's what we should do. Let's get together with the House, fellow House members, and let's introduce a bill called the Fair Bet Act. And let's try to reverse what we just voted for. Are you kidding me? Let me give you the facts here. The facts are that there's an actual person who got voted into office. His name is Troy Nels. He's a Republican from Texas. This is an actual guy. Quote, while I proudly voted for the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which prevents the largest tax hike in American history, the Senate's version, this is a guy in the House, the Senate's version contained a provision that I strongly disagree with. This representative told Front Office Sports in a statement. Prior to the passage, the tax code contained a 100% deduction for gambling losses, up to the amount of winnings. This deduction was not changed in the House-passed version of the bill. Great. It's got to go to the Senate. The Senate changed it, but when the Senate changes it, it goes back to the House because the House has to vote on it again. The bills that become laws are the same word for word in the House and the Senate. And now we've got a House of Representatives, a guy in the House who's saying, wait a minute, when it went to the Senate, it said what I wanted to say, and all of a sudden it doesn't? Listen here. You had a chance to notice it before you passed it again and before you voted for it again, because you had to do that once the Senate changed that provision. Where's your staff redlining the document, which I know you didn't read? This guy then says something that should get him voted out of office immediately. The Senate unfortunately included a provision in their version of the legislation that reduced the allowable deduction to 90%. This provision is unfair, which is exactly why I'm a co-sponsor of the Fair Bet Act. Oh my God, Coca. We have a small problem in our country. You know what's going to happen? All these representatives, and it is allowed. You can introduce legislation all you want. And the funny part is you can introduce legislation that conflicts with existing legislation, and there could be some court issues happening. But behind the scenes, this whole tax issue is a major thing for gambling companies. It's a major thing for Native American tribes. It's a pretty big issue. And we touched on it, and now all of a sudden, there's an opportunity for it to be relitigated. Well, I'd like to present you my top 5 issues I'd like to have relitigated that are currently laws. Number 5, I'd like to go 80. Number 4, nothing personal pick of the day. Remember the game we asked you to watch, which was the Royals and the Pirates, and we took Lugo over Keller, and we said it's an interesting game because both those guys could be traded, and I gave you a way to see that one of them is going to be traded before the deadline? Well, we had the Royals, and Coca has not talked to me about this recently, but I think we are HO triple at the moment. We are up to 91 and 87, 4 games over, which I assume is the best we've been all year. We had the Royals and we won. Tonight may be a special night because we're going to get Justin Verlander of the Giants looking for, I didn't check this, Coca. Check it. I think he's looking for his first win still, and that's why this got my attention. But now I'm having a second thought. But I was told that during the course of a show, take a minute. Make sure you're right. Justin Verlander, current record. This is actual. 0-6 with a 4.84. The guy doesn't have a win yet. Unfortunately, he's going against Luzardo of the Phillies. The Phillies are favored. Can you imagine a world where anybody's favored over Justin Verlander? Well, he's not the old Justin Verlander. Much like many of the pitchers we talk about who have big names but lack of great performances. Clayton Kershaw is an example, whose Dodgers lost to the Brewers last night. Kershaw. Verlander's like a 7 at best. I believe we have a way to see that Verlander is going to get designated because at some point you got to stop giving him the ball. Luzardo had a stretch of starts that were horrific. And he has now had starts where he was the old Luzardo, where hard to get a hit off him. So we are taking Luzardo and the Phillies over the Giants, especially because the Phillies need to get this game. The way they got walked off last night, I don't know if you saw that. I'm pretty sure that a walk-off inside the park home run is probably one of the coolest things ever. As a matter of fact, we hadn't seen a catcher do it, and Patrick Bailey did it last night. We had not seen a catcher do it in 99 years. That seems like a long time to go back to 1926 or the year that San Siro was built and then look to see a catcher hit it inside the Parker. Now, San Francisco, we would actually, when we would play in Pac Bell, which is then renamed AT&T, and I don't remember what it's named now, when we're in the clubhouse before games against the Giants, we're reminding our players about the quirkiness of the angles of their walls, saying, guys, make sure you stretch because you could be on your horse today. There is a possibility that you're going to be legging out a triple or even an inside the Parker if you get a certain bounce off some of the curved walls in left center. And when it happens, it's really cool. To have it happen on a walk-off, even cooler. So tonight's nothing personal pick of the day, Phillies over Giants. Before we head into our second hour, I will do this every day until they lose. I will mention the Miami Marlins. So Coca doesn't think I'm a negative Nelly. They won on the road again. They've won 12 in a row on the road. Franchise record, impossible. The best teams don't win 12 in a row on the road. They're climbing their way back to 500, an absolute miracle, but still out of the wild card race. And query, is there despondency in the front office because they don't know what they should be doing? Yes. When we come back, it's Wednesday. You may hear your own voice. It'll be a 3-minute break, but for some of you, maybe not at all. Just go to hour 2. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It is Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. This is hour two. And if it's Wednesday and if it's hour two, you know what that means. It means so you want to talk to Samson.
You know what I want? I want to talk to Samson.
So you want to talk to Samson. Get up into my Twitter at David P. Samson or Instagram or DavidSamsonPodcast.com. Ask me anything you want. It may make the show, but there's a new wrinkle now since we went to 2 hours about a little over a month ago. We have our own phone number. Yes, Metalark did it. Call it right now. Check out on your screen Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel or on the DraftKings network, and you'll see So You Want to Talk to Samson. 631-377-4869. 631, if you know, you know. 377 DPS 4869. You know what that means? That's the phone number. Leave a message. You may make the show because every Wednesday we will do a full show of your voicemails. Coca, without further ado, because the voicemails this week, it's a new record of greatness. Try to make them 30 to 35 seconds tops. There was a 6-minuter this week. Not going to make the show. Go ahead. Voicemail number one.
Hey, David. I'm Rob from Toronto, living in Alabama, of all places. Hey, man, great show with Kevin Millar. And it got me wondering, what goes on a players-only meeting? Maybe you could provide some anecdotes. Thanks.
Well, thank you from Toronto. We've got a very nice group of fans and audience members in Toronto. Our Alabama numbers are not what they should be, Rob. So please get to your friends in Alabama and have them subscribe. A tour stop in Alabama? What about maybe inviting me to come to Alabama for a football game? Would you do it? Would I come? Wait to see. And thanks for listening to the Kevin Millar segment. Players-only meetings. I happen to know about players-only meetings because teams that I was a part of had players-only meetings at least once a season. So 18 seasons, 18 meetings, several seasons with more than one players meeting. We love talking about it on Nothing Personal because, in theory, no one knows what goes on except for the people eavesdropping. Yes, there are people eavesdropping, but you can also just speak to the players after the meeting as the team president, and they'll tell you if you speak to the right player. And then you have to verify by going to another player of a different background. So I never, ever believed from just one white player or one black player or one Latin player. I needed to hear from all players, all origins, because you want to understand, is there something going on? Because a players-only meeting only happens when there's a problem in your clubhouse, or there's a problem between the clubhouse and the front office, or the clubhouse and the manager, or when there's a problem between players and players that sometimes is an off-the-field problem. We had a players-only meeting when there were two players sleeping with the same person on the road. We had a players-only meeting when there was a player sleeping with another player's wife. We had a players meeting when there was a fight between two players in a bar. We had a players-only meeting when they were not playing up to their expectations and they realized that some of their best friends were about to get traded. We had a players-only meeting when we were playing so badly that the question was, is it worth it to even keep playing? We had a players-only meeting when there was tragedy, a players-only meeting when there was discomfort. Why do you do it that way? Well, there's several types of meetings inside the clubhouse. One is when the owner comes and talks. 2 is when the president comes to talk. 3 is when the GM comes to talk. 4 is when the manager comes to talk. And then 5 is when the players come to talk. A subset of 5 is the players can ask for, hey, we want to hold the meeting. We want to have a meeting and lead the meeting, but we want the coaches there. Or we want the front office and the coaches. Or we want just the coaches, just the front office, just the manager. They can dictate who they want, and it's normally related to what the subject is. If it's something that they can and want to and should police together, or it's some sort of nefarious activity where they want to do a kangaroo court, or they want to talk about who's bringing alcohol on the team plane and whether or not Randy's got his suitcase. All of those things are possible. The reason why we allow the players-only meetings to happen is that We will suggest timing of it. We don't like players' meetings that happen spur of the moment because those come fraught with emotion. We like them planned a day in advance. And then we want to understand what the object is so they can be properly staffed and properly followed up on. If the proper staff is just players, no executives, then you got to go find out what was said by speaking to every portion of the clubhouse. Then you have to execute the change that is discussed in the meeting. Because if you do a players-only meeting without any follow-up action, other than, let's go, guys, hustle, let's go get them, let's play like we know how to play, that's all a bunch of horse hockey. You're going to have a meeting in the clubhouse. There have to be actionable results, things that need to change that we can make change. You don't have a players-only meeting to say, man, I wish we could get out of our slump and win a game. Because that is not how getting out of a slump and winning the game happens. Do the little things. Get the runner over. Don't strike out. Be ready in the bullpen. Don't stay out till 4 a.m. the night before you're going to start. All sorts of things that you can happen, that you can do, but are you really in control? Can you really dictate results? When you have a players meeting about something that's going on as it relates to being late, as it relates to being disrespectful of your teammates, not having a clubhouse environment that you want to have. Can you have a players meeting where they're saying, we are not interested in paying attention to this manager anymore, and I think we should discuss it with the front office. The result is, hey, let's talk to the front office, not talk about talking to the front office. The result is, let's not be late for the team bus or for stretch, or let's all be on the line for the national anthem. You can actually do those things. So players-only meetings are a very important part of the game. They've got to be used correctly. They've got to be followed up correctly. And I still want more audience in Alabama. What's next?
Hey, David. First time, long time. Love the new 2-hour show. My question is about, is A.J. Hinch the most valuable manager in baseball? It seems like the Tigers have not gathered that much more talent than they had when they first got Hinch, but the wins and success have skyrocketed, even though the team has a lot of fringe and platoon players. So I was wondering if this is the best example of a manager having an impact on winning baseball games, especially for a team that doesn't spend that much money. Thanks for answering my question.
Well, I appreciate that question. Very conveniently voicemail that's left, my friend. Detroit has the best record in baseball, so there's that. Number two, the Tigers don't spend money. Go back to their payrolls, please. Go back to some of their contracts because they do spend money. Number three, very important to know that sometimes the maturation of a clubhouse, the maturation of a player, of a squad, that's how you go from bad to good or from good to great. It's harder to go from bad to good than it is to go from good to great. Don't know if you knew that. To go from bad to good, you need to get that rebuild right. You need to get the draft right. You need to get the sprinkling of veterans right. And then you can become good. But when you are good and you want to be great, and believe me, the Tigers, they're not great yet. 59-34, that's a great record. Having the best record in baseball right now after 93 games, that's good. Having won 5 in a row as of right now, this second live, well, that's good. Having a run differential that is the greatest in the game other than the Cubs, that's all good. But to be great, you have to be great in October. And we don't know whether or not and what moves the Tigers are going to make. We do know that they've got a family situation there where when you've got Ilitch's, the son running the team, you've got a desire to win, but it's a little different than when the dad was alive and was trying to get a World Series win for his team, for himself, that always escaped him. When A.J. Hinch was brought there, it was on the heels of the suspension and the firing as manager of the Houston Astros after the garbage can scandal, and he was suspended for a year and then came back and got another managerial job. AJ Hinch has always been known as a very good manager. He's very good managing up. He's very good managing down. He is less than good about acknowledging when he does stuff wrong. When it comes to the garbage can scandal, for any manager or any general manager to ever open their mouth and say, man, I didn't know what was going on, and when I found out, I tried to shut it down, and unbeknownst to me, they kept going. Give me a break. But I don't hold that against AJ Hinch. I look at him as manager of the Tigers, and I look at someone who is a mature manager who understands when to press the right buttons, when to press the gas, how to be a player's manager, how to manage up to the front office, and how to get the most out of players who you could argue there was no more to get. I'm talking about you, Javi. You know I am. You know I am. The hardest thing with a young team is to fight the regression, the way the Orioles have unsuccessfully fought their regression, and it's caused them to have the season they've had. The Tigers have been able to do it in a way where there has only been progression. What role does the manager have in that progression? If I had to allocate what percentage of a team's success at the end of a season, whether you win the World Series or lose 125 games, what percentage does the manager impact that outcome? You're definitely not going to get double digits. I'm just deciding if I'm going below 5%. But for purposes of this conversation, I say we stick to 5%. That is about the level of sway, of difference, of wins above replacement that a manager would have. Think about it in terms of a player. Do you like when a player has a negative WAR? You probably don't, because what it means is he's replaceable by a donkey who would do better by half a win. If you had to establish WAR for managers, A, you'd have a really super hard time doing it. B, nobody's going to be at 8, 7, or 6. At best, they're going to be at 5. If you can get 5 wins out of 160, that seems about the right math, doesn't it? And I don't want to sully AJ Hinch at all. Good manager. But I think we should just pump the brakes on people saying that the Tigers were in the crapper, no money spent, no nothing. They bring in AJ Hinch and bing, bang, boom. They've got the best record in baseball. Didn't quite work that way. This next voicemail came from someone, and I don't remember the name, but I know that we needed to address it. Please play it, Coca.
Hey, David. First time, long time. Been listening since the first episode. Don't watch baseball, but love everything you say. My question is regarding loss. I'm a high school teacher in an alternative school, and every year we experience some loss within our community or some really hard things that occur. The way you've talked about Jose and continue to talk about Jose kind of hits home with me in a different way. And I'm just curious that what your perspective or what your advice is for people who are in these kind of de facto leadership roles within their community or structures, how to deal with loss, really hard things, and move forward and kind of create this like strength and unity. Because it seems like that's really what you were able to do. Anyway, appreciate all you do. God bless.
I appreciate that voicemail. It's not sports related at all. And there's people who are experiencing loss every day around the world, every minute. The significant flooding in Texas continues to reverberate, where more and more stories are coming out about loss that's taking place within a camp community. When there are school shootings that we talk about, how do you deal with loss in a school community? When there is cancer, when there is car accidents, every day it seems to me we have a story of loss, of accidental loss or natural disaster loss. And how do you lead during a time of loss? People may not remember the leadership after 9/11 that, believe it or not, Rudy Giuliani, as mayor of New York, do not revise history as completely off the sort of his rocker Rudy Giuliani is right now. Go back to 2001, and he showed leadership after loss in a way that was exemplary and comforting and needed. Even George Bush did as well, the president at that time. I think about this because I've had to do it, but I always have thought about it. And one of the strange things I can tell you going back to high school is that I had a grandfather die when I was 10 years old, my grandpa Sam, and I was too young to understand what that loss was. That loss was something that I could see being felt by my mother and by my sister, my older sister, but I could not understand it enough to feel it the way that with time and with photos and with stories and with keeping memories alive, you go back to that time and say, oh, that's what that meant. That's what that loss is. But I was in a position of leadership. But back in high school, I remember thinking about leading as I was trying very much not to be a follower, as I was trying to figure out my place in the world as a high schooler. And that is when I started formulating my leadership skills as it related to myriad subjects. But the most important one that you're asking about is how can you lead when you are feeling exactly what everyone else is feeling? The answer is, what made me able to do it is by not having the feeling until the leading was done. I'm not sure that I suggest that for anyone because it's a super painful and emotionally torturous way of doing it, where when you are the leader of people and there is tragedy, you have to be looked at as the rock. You have to be looked at as the logistics person. You have to be looked at as how do we deal with the reality that is today with reckless disregard for the reality that was yesterday that every single person did not think would be so abruptly changed. Because think about what shock is, or think about what that feeling of loss is. You're shocked that you've lost the ability to act today the way you acted yesterday, where you could pick up the phone and call the loved one who was alive, where you could pick up the phone and see the person who had been alive. And then when they're not, or a time before the person had a brain-altering injury accident, you put yourself back at the moment where it was normal, and then you pine for that. That's the loss. When you lose a parent, think about what the Liverpool players are dealing with right now when they lost a teammate. We dealt with that. We had clubhouse meetings after Jose passed where we would talk and we would mourn and we would scream and cry and yell and question and wonder. And then we went to play a game. The only game we missed was the day Jose died that Sunday. We were back playing Monday. Liverpool themselves, they just lost a teammate. They're back training, ready to go. And it's not the old story, oh, just stand up and tell people, hey, that's life. Life goes on. Or my least favorite, God works in mysterious ways. What kind of God would allow this to happen? That's a very popular one. Don't you agree that there's things in life that you don't understand? Physics. I don't understand faxing. How you put a paper in one place looking with words on it, and it comes out another place, looking exactly the same. I don't quite understand the gravitational pull that the moon has that causes waves in the ocean. I don't quite get that. I definitely don't get how pregnancy happens, where somehow you get a sperm and an egg, and then all of a sudden 10 fingers, 10 toes, and I don't know. Isn't that okay? I've always been super comfortable with not understanding things because some things just are. And if you spend your time trying to figure out how to understand something that cannot be understood, and don't argue with me and say, well, it can be totally explained through physics, and I can give you a formula right now with how pregnancy works, and I can tell you exactly how gravity works because we've got it nailed. Not my point. My point is, I don't understand it, and there's nothing you can tell me that will make me understand it. Isn't that what death is? Some people want to understand it, and they use religion as the way to understand it or the way to explain it. My choice has always been, hey, I know it's inevitable. I know I'm scared of it in a way that I'm not scared of anything, including the dark. But I also know that there is not one thing I can say to myself that will get my mental Rolodex to stop twirling, because there is no file card for it. There's no file card for how to be a leader during time of loss other than to do it without emotion, to do it without explanation, do it without rationalization, to do it in a way that simply provides stability to people looking up to you who say, okay, I can keep following this leader. I can keep doing what this person wants me to do, because this person seems somehow to be rational. Then, when you're done leading and you're back in the quiet of your own home, contemplating what it is that just happened, that you had to lead somebody through, or a team through, or a person through, then you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, what just happened? How do I even deal with this? Or you can go the David Samson route, which is never go back, never think about it, never deal with it, and that's it. This is a fun one. There's no transition to that, Coco. There was a voicemail about loss and death. Now there's a voicemail about candy. Go ahead, Coco.
Hi, David. Hi, Coco. This is Jeff. Here's my question. David, what's your Mount Rushmore of candy for when you watch a movie? Second thing, I'm a Miami Heat fan, have been since first season. And no, I am not at all upset about the trade for Norman Powell. I think it's actually a good trade that improves the team. And lastly, Sue and Bruce are my neighbors, David, and they say hello. Take care, guys.
That's a reference to two very loyal Marlins fans, Sue and Bruce Friedman, who go to every game, still do, loyal to the brand as they should be. And I hope that we provided great memories for you during my 16 years. And I hope you're still making great memories. Number two, I'm thrilled to hear that you're okay with the Norm Powell trade. Number one, Mount Rushmore of candy. I don't know that anyone's asked me specifically what it is during movies, because you'd agree that your Mount Rushmore of candy in general has to be different than your Mount Rushmore of candy during a movie. Why? Because when you're eating candy in a place that can get messy, don't you have a different group of candy that you eat versus when you eat candy in a place where you can't make a mess? Do you eat and drink the same in a car as you do at a dining room table? I don't. This is why I chose this voicemail. Because my Mount Rushmore of candy would include how much I love nonpareils. But there's no way I'm eating nonpareils in a movie, because whether it's my theater or movie theater, there's a risk of the nonpareil chocolate melting and you having chocolate on your fingers, or worse than that, the nonpareils missing your mouth, getting into the seat, and you sitting on chocolate, standing up at the end of the movie, and all of a sudden looking like you crapped your pants. True story, that happened to me. Therefore, that was the last time I had nonpareils in a movie theater, and it can't be on the Mount Rushmore of movie candy, but it may be on the Mount Rushmore of candy. How about another one for you? For those of you who like things that are a little messy, like pixie sticks. Remember those where you rip it open and you eat the sugar? Or Fun Dips, when you get to eat the stick and you dip the stick in the sugar? Big League Chew, where you put a whole wad in your mouth, pretend you're chewing tobacco. Then what do you do in a movie? You can't put it on the floor like you're a savage. Sugar gets everywhere. The Fun Dip gets sticky. You don't have water to clean your hands. Napkins won't do. It's like people who eat buttered popcorn in a theater. How can you possibly do it when you have no mirror with which to floss after the popcorn gets stuck in your teeth? You can't do it. So my Mount Rushmore of candy is slightly different in that it's clean candy. The cleanest of the candies is, of course, good and plenty. Very simple. One bite in the mouth, chew it. The coated covering of the licorice inside, chef's kiss of beauty. 2, I like the watermelon Sour Patch. You may think that's sticky, that's got sugar in it. And I would tell you, I'm able to do a pre-pour into a plastic cup, then a plastic cup that can be lifted to your mouth like you're drinking coffee, and they don't fall 5 at a time into your mouth. So it's not like you have a choking risk. It's not like you have an overeat risk. You can easily separate the watermelon so you're only having 1 to 2 at a time per gulp. No mess, no fuss, great taste. Watermelon Sour Patches. Great movie candy. 3, Spree. Spree are spectacular. Why? Because with Spree, when you get the roll of Spree, not the chewy Spree, I'm talking about the hard Spree. The hard Spree, which I love, it unravels. If you're not watching this, I'm explaining that you can unravel a wrapper where, like a Kit Kat wrapper, it's actually hard. You get the Kit Kat open and you try to open it so the Kit Kat is resting on the bottom of the wrapper, but then you got to touch the Kit Kat to separate it unless you eat it whole 4 at a time, which is obviously insane. But a Spree wrapper gets unrolled perfectly. Once you get the initial rip done from the S part of the Spree, so you hold the Spree roll with the S on top, you can get the pre-rip done, and then it rips perfectly, unveiling 1 to 2 to 3, depending on the size of your rip, and you can go right into the mouth. Love that. And then my final one, easy peasy. Give me my black and cinnamon jelly beans. Mix them up with cotton candy or bubble gum. Know that I can't taste the difference. And in a movie theater, I can't see the difference because it's dark. So I just have the bag, the mixed bag when I walk into the theater. And I've got less of the mixed bag when I walk out of the theater because I pounded so many of them. Mixed jelly beans. That's my Mount Rushmore of anywhere I am. Car, train, plane, movie, running. I do eat jelly beans when I run. Little known fact. During a marathon, I eat jelly beans. Why wouldn't I? That's a fun question. This next voicemail, Coco, was the one that meant the most to me of the voicemails this week. And you will know why after you play it.
Hi, David Samson. This is not a question. I just wanted you to know my husband forced me to listen to the episode about why the Dodgers and other businesses are making sure that their workforce looks like the communities they serve. And I will tell you, normally when I hear your voice, I tune it out as much as I can because my husband always listens to you. I don't care about baseball. I don't want to hear it. And so the sound of your voice is just like, oh no, that again. Well, now I'm going to start listening better because I really appreciate what you had to say today, and I realize I have something in common with you, even though I never want to hear my husband. I can't explain it. Basically, usually I'm just irritated because I want to do something else or I want to hear something else, and I'm going to be much less likely to be now. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Are we causing divorces, Coca? Is that what's happening? Where we've got people listening to the show and the wives are so despondent that they hear our voice in the background or my voice in the background and they immediately feel that feeling when your spouse or significant other is driving you crazy. The sound of your voice makes me viscerally sick to my stomach. Who hasn't been there? I wanted to play this, Coca. I needed to play it because A, thank you, ma'am. I didn't get your name, but I certainly got your concept. So what I'm picturing, and tell me if I got any of this wrong, for all of you who just listened to that voicemail, that she'll be in the car with her husband, or they'll be in the kitchen, and instead of having me in his ears, he has it in a way that's like on speaker. And so I'm talking about whatever, baseball or any sport, or I'm reviewing a movie, whatever I'm doing. And she's being driven crazy by the dulcet, phlegm-filled vocal cords. And then all of a sudden, she perks up because her husband says, I know that generally he's terrible, but why don't you listen to this? Because this one actually meant something. And it literally makes my heart feel good. Because we at Nothing Personal, we don't just give you the scores. You can listen to this with your wife, with your significant other, with your children. We're not a recap show. We're not going to give you the ordinary drivel about, oh, what's going on? What happened? No, we're going to talk about subjects that mean something to us, that we think will mean something to you, and try to educate you on those subjects so you can make your own decision on various topics. Whether it's politics, whether it's love, friendship, sports, business, we're here for you. We've been trying. Now, I can't get Metalark to do anything about this, and Coke and I can't do it, but we've been trying to figure out, how do we make our demographics even better? How do we get more women to watch? And Coca, we totally screwed it up. We need women to watch with their husbands or significant others who are so despondent that they hate listening to us the way some people from Miami used to back in the day, and some people still do around the world. And you know what? I love you all. Hate me or love me, just don't forget about me. So this woman is willing to leave a voicemail to tell me she can't explain something, and the thing she can't explain is how my voice replaces her husband's voice, which leads to a level of irritation that was palpable. But when we start talking about community or things that aren't baseball related, all of a sudden, everything's good again. Well, thank you for not tuning me out going forward. Now, I'm, of course, taking the risk. What's the risk? It's a clear risk that this show she's listening to, she hears her own voice and says, I had no idea I'd be on the show. I hate the sound of my own voice. Or what if her husband said the same thing? Honey, zip it. God, I'd love to join your family for dinner. Thank you for that voicemail. Let's keep going. I love these voicemails, Coca. Thank you. 631-377-4869. Every Wednesday, we'll spend one show just listening to your voicemails and commenting and answering questions. 631-DPS-4869. What's next, Mr. Coca?
Hey, David, it's Anthony from Arizona again. Maybe you can pick between one of these two questions. I'd like to hear your opinion. This one might be a little more interesting. I know that Major League Baseball will go to 32 teams when they get these situations figured out. But looking at the talent and the depth from all over the world, in your opinion as an expert, could we see expansion to, say, 36 with baseball being a worldwide sport? And could it be done? And is there enough money for it? Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. A couple things. You said your second question. Thank you for leaving multiple questions from which we can choose from, though I don't recall hearing the second question. Two, thank you for thinking I'm an expert, which self-proclaimed maybe. Three, we'll be the judge of what's more interesting. 4, 36 teams, 9 divisions of 4. Let's list 36 cities. Do we have it? Let's give a team to Portland. Let's give a team to San Antonio. Let's give a team to Nashville. That's 3. We're going to have to give a team to Montreal. That's 4. We're going to have to put a third team in New York for sure. That's 5. Get another team in the Mid-Atlantic. That's 6. We're probably going to have to figure out if Sacramento is worthy of a team without Severino. That's 7. And then we're going to have to think to ourselves, should Oakland be back in the game? All right, 8. We can come up with 8 cities pretty easily. And then if there's a relocation out of Sacramento or Tampa, then we're up from 30 to 30. Are you kidding me? I could sit and do this math all day. Expansion to 36 teams in Major League Baseball, NGTH, never going to happen. The reason why it's never going to happen is that the only possible way to get to 36, because there are not 36 major league cities in the United States, is to have a European division. So I love where your head's at. Could it be 36? Because why don't we just add the Londoners and the Parisian Frenchmen? God, wouldn't it be great if live I could come up with way better nicknames than that? Like the Paris Berets or the London Look Rights. Wouldn't it be amazing to have a team in Mexico City? We threaten that all the time. Why wouldn't we just bring the Korean Baseball League or the Nippon League and make it part of Big League Baseball? Those guys are damn good. Well, you understand that every other league out there is inferior to Major League Baseball. You do know that. There are exceptions where there are players who are good enough to be big leaguers. One of them is going into the Hall of Fame, first Japanese player ever in only 17 or 18 days. Ichiro will be in the Hall of Fame. But combining those leagues, there's an issue of talent. I don't know that there's talent for 32 teams full of 26 big leaguers right now at the level of talent we want. Stan Van Gundy told you there's no talent in the NBA for expansion. Until they come up with a Concorde that actually works and doesn't crash and changes the flying time to Europe, you can't have European divisions. Of course, if you changed the time zone and the travel time, then you could. And do you like the chances of Europe all of a sudden being in the Eastern time zone, forgetting anything to do with the sun or the moon or gravity? Do you like the chance of having an Elizabeth Montgomery moment where we can go full Bewitched, where we can twinkle our nose, close our eyes, and all of a sudden be in Wembley? I'm in. I don't think we're going to live to see it. I do not believe that anybody listening to this show, even the 14% of you under the age of 26, even you, I do not believe will live to see a day where there will be a European division of an American league. Now, NFL is trying to do NFL Europe. Major League Baseball wants more games in Asia, more games in Mexico, more games in Dominican, Venezuela, Europe, London. Count it. Who can get Paris? Everyone is fighting. It's like the old West where there's a land rush. Hey, if we put our stake here, we own it, until big people with guns come around and all of a sudden it's called the Wild West. The reason why you're not going to see it is logistics and quality of talent. Now, I don't begrudge your question for actually being an interesting one, because if these leagues could expand beyond 30, 32, 34, 36, would they? And the answer is, if the price were right. If the expansion fees were such that it overcame the splitting of the TV revenue into more pieces than before expansion, if the math works, then expansion would continue to happen, because owners, existing owners, they don't quite focus on the fact that the quality is going to decrease. What comes up when you're talking expansion, and all the leagues are going to be talking it now, what comes up is media money. What comes up is sponsorship money. What comes up is ticket money, food money, beverage, parking. What comes up is incremental increases to industry revenue. It never comes up. It's literally not a part of the conversation. Who's going to pitch the fifth inning for that team? Who's going to be the number 6 hole hitter for that team? How are they going to guard anybody? Who's going to catch a pass? I could go on. I think you know where I'm going. When owners are voting on expansion and discussing it, it actually never comes up. Stan Van Gundy, when he was with us this past week, he talked a lot about diluting the on-court product. He talked about that would be a reason not to have expansion. And I agree. It's just not the reason used by owners to either have or not have expansion. That's the big difference. Another baseball voicemail. This one is not sort of baseball. Actually, I think this one is going to interest you. That's obviously why we put it in the show. but we have not given enough love to the Savannah Bananas, and I think it's time. Go ahead, play that voicemail, Coca.
Hi, David, Coca. Hope you guys are having a great one. David, I have a question for you. Having watched that Savannah Bananas event over the weekend at Wrigley, looks like it was sold out. Should MLB have some concerns about like offshoot leagues like Banana Ball that seem to really feed into this trend of fans who need more constant stimulation, have shorter attention spans? Banana Ball feeds into that in a way that baseball can't. And so should baseball look at long-term concerns, not now, but 10 years from now, if we continue this trend where other leagues can start to bleed fans based on feeding into these trends? Like Banana Ball sold 135,000 tickets over like 2 days. So is there worry there? I'm curious your thoughts on that one. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I love the show. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks for all the great greetings and loving the show. It feels better than you'd imagine it would feel. It really does. Let's talk about a few things that you said in that voicemail and in that question. How many opportunities do you have? Let me do a role play here, Coca. Here we go. I don't know if you want to put your voice on this, because of course we didn't rehearse this because that's not how we roll. What choices do you have on a Friday or Saturday night of what to do generally? You don't have to answer if you don't want. Go to a movie, go to dinner, you could stay home, order in a movie. You could go to a concert. You could go to a game. You could go to a different level of game, a high school game, a college game, a pro game. You could go to an art house movie or an Avengers type movie. You could go walking in the park. You could go bike riding. These are what's called uses of your disposable income. Disposable income, as defined, is income that is not needed to live. It is part of your, for better purposes, your entertainment budget, which if you're smart, you will have an entertainment budget because everybody spends money, and the only people who don't budget it are people who are kidding themselves and put themselves in debt. You can't say to yourself during the course of this year, I'm never going to go out. I'm never going to go do anything. What we're fighting for as a league is your disposable income. We're not fighting for your rent money. You're not going to choose a game over rent. You're not going to choose a movie over rent. And if you are, then I don't know what to tell you. You're making a mistake. We're taking the extra $50 you have per month, if you have that, and we're saying, we'd like you to choose us. But we know about the competition. The competition's everywhere. The competition exists inside and outside of baseball, inside and outside of movies, inside and outside of different leagues, different types of baseball, different types of sporting events. Do I view with anger when people choose to spend money on a monster truck show instead of coming to a baseball game? Heck no. Your money. If we're having a product that you don't like enough to spend your money on, that's on me, not on you. I'm not going to DI shame you, disposable income shame you. If you want to go to a Savannah Bananas game and not a Major League Baseball game, I got to do a better job. The thing is, I'm not scared of the Savannah Bananas. I love it. I want people to have alternative programming. It's like the Manning cast for a Major League game where, hey, this is fun, this is stupid, but you know what? I probably will still end up watching the main broadcast and Joe and Troy. The numbers would indicate that. Going to a Savannah Banana game is great. Would you buy season tickets? Would you go to 81 Savannah Banana games? Would you go to a World Series or watch a World Series, and would a network pay for a World Series where it's the Savannah Bananas against the Ashton Ashes? That's the second time this show that I couldn't come up with a city name and a nickname. That quick. That's hard to imagine. Would you go to a World Series between the Savannah Bananas and the Washington Generals? Exhibitions are exhibitions for a reason. Why are some acts stadium acts, some acts arena acts, some acts go to the Beacon in front of 5,000, some go to City Winery in front of 500? Because you know what you are, and you know what you aspire to be, and you know what you can be, and you know what you never will be. Do I think I will ever sell out Giant Stadium for a live Nothing Personal show? God, I'm going to try, but I don't suspect I will. I don't think I'm Joel Osteen. But that said, that doesn't make me less of a interesting choice for your time or money. That doesn't make what I do less important. There is a room and a place for everyone. And there is something that can be said of what that means outside of an event. There is room and place for all of the difference. All of the change that you think should scare you should embrace you. All of the things that make you uncomfortable, you should want to do more of. The Savannah Bananas don't make MLB uncomfortable. They make them strive harder to compete as another thing. And stadiums, when you have an opportunity to book an event, Marlins Park, that you're going to have 40,000 people watching the Savannah Bananas and 5,000 people watching the Marlins, I'm not complaining about that. I'm honored and happy that we built a ballpark where 40,000 people get to come and watch something that they have fun watching on a Saturday night or a Wednesday night because of its uniqueness. If we had 81 Savannah Banana games at Marlins Park, you can bet your sweet Bippy there'd be 5,000 people there at most without any local TV deal. And that is not sullying the Savannah Bananas at all. What we do as a reaction to success, it happens in sports, it happens in business, it happens in family life, it happens in your personal life. How do you try to achieve your success? You sort of copy someone who's doing it better than you're doing it and getting the result that you actually want. Do I look at how Savannah Bananas marketed themselves? Do I look at how we sell out World Baseball Classic games between Venezuela and the Dominican and try to recreate it with vuvuzelas? Of course I do. Does it work? Not really. Why? Because supply and demand, because of the uniqueness of event. You can't scale an event like the Savannah Bananas and have them play in a league where there's 10 teams of Savannah Bananas, each playing 162 games. It would lose its appeal. What we do is we take the best of the best players in the world, and we put them out there like the best actors in the world on the screen, or the best performances on the stage, or the best chefs making the best food. We present you with the options, and we respectfully ask for your disposable income to reward us for what we are presenting to you because we think it's what you want. People want to watch the Savannah Bananas. People want to forget about life for a while, but there's no emotional attachment. We trade in the big leagues on your emotional attachment. We trade on the fact that you cry, you hate, you love, you scream, you complain. We don't trade on the fact that, oh, we're going to zip in and we're going to zip out. We're zipping into a Savannah Bananas game, and then we're zipping out. We want you to come back and stay, Paul Young. We want you to be attached to the point where you will choose us even when it doesn't feel good, because that feeling of pain and anger, that's the feeling you crave because it gives you a frame of reference when your team wins the World Series. We love it. You think that we sit around as presidents of teams and listen to sports radio and say, oh my God, these fans are despondent. They hate us. They're lunatics. No, we love it. We got that one. We could do anything, and we got that one. Or what about when a fan says, I will not be a fan of your team until you do X, Y, or Z? Okay, be a fan of a different team. No problem. You'll be back. And the funny thing about coming back is that coming back always feels better than as bad as leaving felt. So when fans are leaving, when they're coming, when they're angry, when they're upset, when they're happy, when they're being entertained, when they're not, when your team is winning, when it's losing, it's all part of the experience that we are here to provide for you in order, remember, for you to give us your disposable income and your heart so we can reach in and pull it. Why? It's just business. Love all voicemails. We'll be back tomorrow. This is nothing personal.